Okay, right back here at the Florida EAP conference in Melbourne. And again, we're into the final days of conference, and we've had a lot of fun. Got a chance to sit down. Now, I've run into you, Tony, on and off throughout the conference. We finally get to this chance to sit down and talk. This is
Absolutely.
Tony Foster, who is a program director over at Beachcomber. And he is the CEO of the Center for Sobriety, Spirituality, and Healing. Did I get all that right?
You got it all right. You got it
Okay,
all right.
fantastic. Tony, tell me, how have you enjoyed the conference so far?
I've loved the conference. I always loved Melbourne. I've been part of EAP for probably 12 or 13 years.
Oh, wow.
When I first started working at the Beachcomber 15 years ago, Joe said to me, you should come to these meetings. And I had never been to Melbourne before, and this is a beautiful hotel. All the rooms are on the face the ocean, and there's if you're in recovery, there's great AA meetings in the town, and the town's kind of a historic town. If you stay the weekend, every Saturday night they have a street fair. It's just a nice place. They have good restaurants here, so I really look forward every time I come, not just to the conference, but also to Melbourne in general.
Yeah, Melbourne, it's the beaches are beautiful.
Yeah,
Like you said, just the view from the hotel and
yeah.
waking up in the morning and stepping outside with a cup of coffee and looking out at the water. It's very peaceful, very nice.
And how about last night? And we were out in our tiki event, and there was a rocket launch.
That was cool.
I'd never seen that before.
Neither have I.
And it was almost dark, so you could really see it well. So
I couldn't believe how well we could see it.
Yeah.
At first, I thought we're just going to see a little bit, and then
Yeah.
we saw it go all the way across the sky.
Yeah.
It was a launch over at the Kennedy Space Center, I guess.
Right.
And but that was really neat. But about this event, given the state of, and I've talked about this ad nauseum, I think, but given the state of 2020 being a very difficult year, not only for treatment, but for every individual out there, whether you have a problem or don't have a problem, new problems were created for everybody.
Sure.
So these kind of stressors, really adding to the problem of mental health, addiction, and stress and trauma. What kind of problems did you see, not only for putting this conference together, but for your everyday work at Beachcomber and for the Center of Sobriety?
Well, certainly relapse rates are up.
Yeah.
Initially, when COVID hit, we saw that it wasn't affecting treatment as much as regular treatment as much as it was detoxes. It seemed like people were going to detox, but they weren't following it up with residential treatment or PHP or anything beyond that. They kind of wanted to clean themselves up and get back to their lives. As it's gone on, the Beachcomber has stayed full the last several months because people have begun to follow it up. So in my work at the Beachcomber, we're pretty full all the time, and the Center for Sobriety is a private practice that my wife and I run, and because of the relapse rate and because of the family work that we do, we're literally completely fully booked. I'm driving back tonight to do a 6:30 p.m. on a Friday night appointment. We even do appointments on Sundays because we're that fully booked, in part because of COVID. I think, honestly, if I'm fair to my wife and I, in part because of the good work we do. When we do family counseling, we do it together. So if it's a husband and wife, they both feel supported. Usually when a husband and wife go to family counseling or marital counseling, whatever way you want to look at it, it's either the wife's therapist or the husband's therapist.
It's always skewed in one direction.
Right.
Yes.
We do it this way on purpose so that both people feel supported. And that word has kind of gotten around. And so we're busy with that. My wife, KJ Foster, is the family program director at the Beachcomber. And so all of that came together. And when a client leaves the Beachcomber, very often his family sees us in our private practice.
KJ, absolutely brilliant. If you get a chance to meet her or talk with her, you can't help but be impressed. You did well. You did well. I think
even a blind squirrel can find an acorn once in a while.
I think that most of us, people like you and I, we're lucky to find love to begin with. being unlovable for so long.
Sure.
Certainly, but that's fantastic that all that's going on. One of the things that I talked about
I
with
should
one,
mention, if I can interrupt
oh,
you,
please do.
she'll kill me if I don't. She's got a new book coming out January 2nd.
Does she?
Yes, on family recovery, how the whole family is in recovery, and approaches to how to handle somebody coming out of treatment as the family member. So
That's, you know what? I'm glad you took us in that direction because we don't talk enough about this. I don't think anywhere in the spectrum about this. That if a client were to go into treatment and get good treatment, even great treatment, and they come out and they're gung ho and ready for sobriety, but if the family unit is still sick, and the client has to return to a sick family unit, the chance of relapse goes up exponentially. I mean, it's ridiculous.
and that
if
is
they all don't heal, right?
and you just mentioned the whole complete package of how we approach this.
Yes.
We tell people, if you're going back to that same house and nobody else is doing Al-Anon or therapy or group therapy or something to change the dynamic at home, your best case scenario is you're going to end up here again.
Yes.
The worst case scenario we don't even want to talk about, but the fact of the matter is we get very involved with the family. Because of COVID, we don't do on-site visits for family program now. And in a sense, this has been a boom for us at the Beachcomber, because now the client whose family is in New York or Chicago or California, who couldn't participate in the family program before because they're not going to fly in for a 3-hour meeting, now they can do it over Zoom. And so we now have 100% participation by our families, where we used to have about 60%. And when we go back to having visits, we're going to have concurrent Zoom and in-person family program.
It's almost been a gift that's been given to us. It
Right.
forced our hand for us to reach out beyond the borders of the walls that we operate in, and hopefully most places will keep that, because it's really important that we have that kind of outreach. But how did you break down that barrier, and how do you continue to do that? When I come across family members, a lot of times you get a whole lot of pushback, like, this isn't my fault, this isn't my problem. And they assume that if they need healing as well, that somehow they're to blame. Do you come across that?
We do initially, and we broach that with a couple of things. First of all, KJ and I are both in long-term recovery ourselves.
Right.
And most importantly to the family member, we have a son who's in long-term recovery. So we've been exactly where they're sitting. And we've made the mistakes, and we've felt at times that we were part of the problem instead of part of the solution. And in fact, we may have been part of the problem at times by enabling and things like that. So that gives us a certain level of credibility. Secondly, both of us are PhDs, gives us another level of credibility. But we also put on very professional presentations. This is not come visit your child or just stand in front of a camera and talk. It's PowerPoints followed up by copies of that, followed up by other meetings, followed up by phone discussions, followed up by Zoom meetings that are individual. So
Right.
we do a lot of follow-up work.
It gives it substance.
Yes. Yeah.
And like you said, it lends to the credibility, certainly when you have all of the material.
We had a wife of a man that went through our treatment, who they live in Hobe Sound. Our office is in Boca Raton. She would come with him for family therapy after he completed for like a year and drive from Hobe Sound to Boca on a Sunday morning so that they could get therapy. They bought into it to
Yes.
that degree, right? And kind of that word got around to other family members of the Beachcomber, and it started to snowball from there.
So you must feel it must be empowering to know that, listen, distance is no longer a problem.
Yes,
It
very
must be a
much, yeah.
wonderful feeling for you guys.
Absolutely, it is. It takes the biggest barrier away, right?
Right.
It used to be a real problem if I had a client in New York and the family wanted to come for a visit. and the family program's 3 hours on a Saturday afternoon, we had to go through all kinds of adjustments. And they get to spend the whole weekend with the client, not overnight, but the whole weekend with the client. But that created, in a facility that's only got 16 beds, that created a certain amount of issues and distractions for the rest of the patients. This way, it's all done on Zoom, and it works out much better.
Now, I had mentioned something to somebody before. This kind of work, it's almost more of a calling than it is a profession. I think for most people, you feel that it calls to you that this is what you should be doing, and hopefully, if you do the right things, you can be successful at it. But it is not a 9-to-5 job. It cannot be defined as this is my 9-to-5 job and I get to turn it off. This is almost like it envelops, especially with the both of you working in this field, it envelops a large part of your life. Does that ever get tiring for you?
Well, it's not my job. It's my life.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't look at it as my job. I get paid for it, and I need to get paid for it. We all need to pay our bills.
Yeah.
But it's not my job. It's my life, because I get calls at 10 o'clock at night. I get calls in the middle of the night. When I was running the Beachcomber IOP, when we first opened it, I told every client, here's my cell phone number. If you're struggling in the middle of the night, you can call me. And everybody thought I was out of my mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I ran the IOP for 7 years, and in 7 years I got 2 phone calls. So people
knowing they had the access made
exactly,
it feel better, right?
Yeah, right. Knowing that someone cares about
Yeah.
them, and that's what this is all about, right? It's putting your arm around someone when they need to have an arm put around them, and then being a little tougher when you need to be tougher. But I think one of the things that makes the Beachcomber so different than everybody else, every therapist at the Beachcomber, not only do they have the credentials they need to have, but every one of them is in recovery themselves. Right. So when they sit across the table from a client, they've been in the same position. I actually got sober at the Beachcomber. 18 years ago, I was in the Beachcomber as a patient. Mm. And, we have somebody that works there who, as a therapist, who got sober 40 years ago at the Beachcomber.
Wow.
So, I mean, if you go in our area where the Beachcomber is, you find those kind of people all over the place, right? And they stay associated with the Beachcomber.
So a lot of people could talk about a family atmosphere. You can actually show, you can almost show a lineage of family. We got sober, we stayed, we helped each other, and we grew together.
Our chef got sober at the Beachcomber. Our administrator got sober at the Beachcomber.
By the way, he makes the best Reubens. I'm just telling you. I had him one time. Oh my! Right, the Reubens.
Yeah, the Reubens are great.
Wow.
Yeah. I love all his food, but look at me. It takes a lot of work to get like this.
Hey, you and me both, my friend. We'll hit the buffet later. But listen, it's absolute pleasure talking to you, as always, Tony.
Anytime.
I'm impressed with your dedication. You and KJ as well. All the things that you do for people in recovery, and just for anybody in general. You guys are always willing to put a hand out there. Do you ever have those moments where you shake your head and say, there must be an easier way to live?
As unbelievable as it sounds, I don't. When I was a patient at the Beachcomber, I ran restaurant chains before I changed careers. When I was a patient at the Beachcomber, I came to the realization that if I went back to that business, I would drink again, and I was going to die. I mean, I had lost 65 pounds in 6 weeks immediately prior to coming into the Beachcomber, because all I did was drink. And so when it kind of hit me that, man, I might think I might be a good therapist, and I went back to school, I was like all in. We're the kind of people that are all in whatever we're doing, right? We're all in, or we're all out. Yeah. Once I was all in, I was completely all in, and I've loved it. Have there been bad moments? Of course, there's bad moments in anything that you do, but never have I thought, what am I doing? This is.
Yeah. Well, Karen and I are definitely on board with you, because Karen, her family is drawn into the work that she does, and with my family, my fiance, everybody, they're drawn into the work and it becomes a part of your life. It becomes a part of who you are. And even in those difficult moments, you still know that this is what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And thank God, because that means that when somebody's hurting, there will be somebody there to help them. So.
Absolutely.
Tony, I appreciate your time. Obviously you're going to stay committed to the EAP conference. Come back next year.
Absolutely. I've been the president of the EAP before.
Oh, you have?
I have. I told you at the beginning of this talk that Joe got me here coming to the quarterlies, and then he said, "Hey, what do you think about being on the board?" You know how Joe is.
Yeah.
And you can't say no to him. So I ended up.
Okay.
I
He's
think
actually putting your name in as he's asking you the question because he already knows you're going to say yes.
So I was the secretary, and then I was a vice president, then I was the president, and then now I'm a board member now. So I love coming here.
Fantastic. So we'll do this again next year. But
Sure.
in the meantime, just keep doing the great work. And where can they look for KJ's new book, or is that not?
It's going to be on Amazon. I think January 2nd. It'll be there.
And we know we've talked about Beachcomber. How do they get a hold of you at Center for Sobriety, Spirituality, and Healing?
They can go to our website, soberspirithealing.com.
Soberspirithealing.com. I love it.
And they can reach me at tfoster@soberspirithealing.com if they want. And I can give you my cell phone number if you'd like. I'd give it out to everybody.
It's entirely up to you. You can shout it out if you want.
754-245-0332.
All right.
Okay.
So make sure you reach out if you have any questions. Believe me, Tony and KJ, they love answering questions. So sometimes it's a simple question that can change your life. So ask the questions, get involved. Tony, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.